Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. I hope this message finds you well. I just want to come on today and briefly talk about something that's been on my heart to talk about. I want to talk about the male corruption, the corruption of masculinity. Okay? Let's put it that way. The corruption of masculinity. So currently I feel like, I've been experiencing a very a very strong sense of a world in which the masculine has a distorted view of the feminine. And in this time that we're living in, I'm feeling like the masculine is highly sexualized, highly triggered by temptation. And I feel like the masculine is being confronted with past traumas that have been unresolved. I'm noticing the rampant sexual immorality, men willing to try things that they wouldn't otherwise try, being tempted by drugs, being tempted by women who are loose or who are in it for personal gain. A lot of these men are underneath this guise of material possession and trying to front like, trying to overcompensate, in my opinion, for these traumatic wounds that they have that they're not willing to deal with. So, they dress up the mess, they put on a whole bunch of, money and power on it, and they make it look nice. And they breeze through life hurting and destroying people's lives. Not understanding that a lot of this dysfunction comes from them playing out childhood trauma that they haven't dealt with. If people would deal with their trauma, men and women alike, if they would deal with their trauma from years ago. And listen, people always say, I had a good life, I had a good childhood, nothing traumatized me. Well, something had to have traumatized you. Even, things can traumatize you, and you could have a repression of it. So therefore, you won't even remember that you were triggered in that way, because your brain has a way of protecting you from things that hurt you. Okay? And again, this is the way that I'm seeing it play out in society today. I just recently got out of a relationship of a very long duration, and coming back out and seeing things and how they are in the field today is very worrisome. I'm seeing a lot of different things, and it's all sexually based. It's all based in low vibrational energy, and it's so toxic, and it's nothing good can come from it. No strong foundation, nothing that will withstand the test of time. I feel like the demographic right now feels like, everybody's the same. Nobody really is cherishing relationships or looking for relationships in which to cherish, at least from where I'm standing. It seems like people are very overwhelmed with so many options that they feel like each one of them are viable, or that each one of them should be treated in the same way. And I feel like people need to understand that some things, some roads, I don't care how I don't care how many roads there are, right? Some roads are just not worth going down. You feel me? I don't care how many princesses you have. There's only a couple of, I don't care how many princesses you have. There's only one queen. So it's like, you can't treat everybody the same. And I feel like, in the male demographic, what I've experienced thus far is that, there's a level in which these men are treating women across the board the same. And this is something that needs to stop, but it can only stop when women stop selling themselves short of what they deserve. We have to stand for a higher standard, because if not, then it makes it so easy for these men to be jaded and figure that they can just treat everybody across the board like a peasant. It's something that is getting worse, I feel like, and it's all to do with people not dealing with their own issues and looking at themselves with critical eyes. People want to criticize everybody else, but when it comes to actually looking at themselves with critical eyes, they really can't do it. They can't muster up that courage and that strength. They can't fight through that uncomfortable feeling of confronting your issues and fighting your demons. And it's not easy, and it may never happen for some people. But I just wanted to talk about that, because I feel like it's psychologically it's so much deeper than people even realize, but it's so toxic, and even with, I've heard of a lot of people, being in third party situations and women saying, oh, well, hey, he has a wife, but so what, oh, well, get at him about it. But it's like, do you understand that every moment you spend with somebody else's husband, you take away from your own relationship, your own possible happily ever after, your own possible soulmate connection? You take time from that when you try to take something that isn't yours. What is for you is for you, and what is not for you, what you try to make yours, what you try to take from somebody else, you will reap what you sow. So it's like, people have to understand that there are rules and regulations. You have to live your life like somebody is watching, because somebody is watching and keeping score. And you will get yours, whether it be it hitting your pocketbook, whether it be it hitting your health, whether it be hitting your family lineage and your opportunities that are extended to you. It will most definitely come back to you. So that's why it's important for all of us to be on our best behavior. And it's not for one of us to do right and for the other one to be lacking and slacking. It's for all of us to be doing our very best, so that we don't end up in situations where nobody knows their role, or people are confused. If you don't have multiple people involved in a situation, if you're in a relationship and you don't have multiple people involved in it, then it's quite easy to not be confused. It's so much easier to know how you feel. But if you're in a relationship with someone and then you're bringing in all these different energies, no wonder. But people feel a need to overcompensate for what they lack, that they need validation every waking moment. And especially in the male group, they need validation. They need admiration. And if you tell them that they're wrong, or that, that's not the way life is supposed to go, or that that's not the best way to go about doing things, they just go and find someone new. That's not life. That's not life. That's not life. And even with America as a whole, if you're looking at what's going on in America right now with the racial divide, this comes from the issues not being dealt with. You can't just, leave one situation all messed up, all frailed and whatever, and then go to and go to a whole nother situation and expect it to be blessed. It's not going to happen. You have to take accountability for what's went wrong. Excuse me. You have to take accountability for what went wrong in this previous situation. End it properly. And that's another thing. A lot of these men don't know how to end things properly. Be careful with people Watch people, how people end things, or if they finish things, if they procrastinate with things, that's a sign of their character. Because a lot of people, and especially in this day and age, don't know how to end things. They don't, they want to be in a relationship. They know how to butter you up, but they don't know how to say, I don't want to be with you anymore. I want to be with someone else. And honestly, if people were more authentic in that way, there would be a lot less tension. Because if you keep it real with people, a lot of the time people will respect you and you'll have a home to come back to if ever you need. But if you're going to burn a bridge with somebody by continuously lying to them about how you feel and what you're about, you leave all options off the table. And I think that over and over again, the main theme is, everybody's not the same. Unjade yourself. Stop being so dysfunctional. And if you do have dysfunctional habits, you have to refrain. You have to be still. You have to stop immediately. You have to stop. Immediately. You have to redirect that energy. Because everybody's not the same, and you don't treat everybody the same, and every woman ain't the same caliber. And you have to know when you have somebody good to hold on to, and when you have a treasure to hold on to it. Because again, one in the hand is worth two in the bush. And sometimes we live in this, especially now, we live in this bubble where you can get caught up in a fantasy world that is not even real, right? Risking it all for nothing. Leaving people behind, or leaving good people in situations where they shouldn't be, because of people not knowing how to be authentic and show up authentically and be there for themselves. If people don't deal with their past trauma and get to the bottom of why they feel the way they feel, why they do the things they do in relationship, why they act the way they act, then they're never going to be able to manifest anything real, period. And they're going to continuously just projectile vomit onto people. Anybody who will listen. You have to get your own soul right. That's the number one thing. And this sexual immortality has to stop as well. You have to go celibate. You really do. You have to stop having sex altogether. You have to remove yourself from it in order for you to reacclimate yourself appropriately. And a lot of men are not willing to do that. They just go from one sexual relationship to another sexual relationship, and these sexual relationships are very detrimental to your soul, because again, if you are having sex with multiple people and you're exchanging those type of energies with multiple people, you're going to be a confused soul. Because you're adopting everybody. You're adopting everybody you coming across. It's just a level of respect that's just not being given to the females. And it has a lot to do with the fact that we don't have the boundaries, or we don't have the standards to enact them. We don't have the standards as women to feel, or we don't feel we have the self-worth to be able to keep these boundaries up and still maintain a relationship with the men that we value. But I'm here to tell you that you can. You need to have boundaries. As women, we need to combat these issues with boundaries. Combat these issues with having higher standards and expecting more from these men. There's no way that what I'm seeing out here should be accepted. There's no way that what I'm seeing out here is the end all be. Like, it can't be it. This can't be life. We as women have to raise our vibrations, and once we do, they will follow suit, because honestly, what are you going to do? You can't procreate without us, right? So we have to raise our vibrations, make a conscious effort. And I recommend that all you ladies, especially if you're single, or if you're going through turmoil in a relationship that you are unsure of, remove the sexual aspect from it. remove the sexual aspect from it. Clear your mind, meditate, read, write, sing, dance, do other things. But do not continue to engage in this flesh on flesh on flesh, lust, 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 lust. Let's just do what makes us feel good and let's not even think about tomorrow. Because let's face it, not thinking about tomorrow is what got us here. If maybe we would have been thinking a little bit further ahead, maybe there wouldn't continue to be a spike in coronavirus cases. Maybe if we thought a little bit more ahead, we would have known that this insurgent was bound to happen with a president that is so toxic and vile, right? Maybe if we would have looked a little bit further ahead, we would have understood that over-sexualizing women is going to be detrimental for the image of sacred union. You know, you can't have a sacred union anymore because every woman is now a sex object. I'm rambling now. I digress. It just makes me sad because I feel like there are a lot of people that are being affected by this. Not just the people that make the decisions, the toxic decisions or the bad decisions. They drag their whole lineage, they drag their whole family, they drag children, they drag their spouses, they drag their mothers, their fathers, their sisters, their brothers. They drag them all down this road of toxicity, of lies, deception, drugs. And these are supposed to be the leaders in the community. They ought to be ashamed of themselves, but they're not. They run rampant and they just dress it up. They dress it up. They dress up the mess. On to the next one. It seems like a good idea, but it really isn't. And it doesn't just hurt them. It hurts everyone around them. You know, if you're a man right now that is out here living foul, I encourage you to really sit down with yourself and ask yourself why you don't love yourself enough to keep yourself from danger. Why you don't love yourself enough to keep yourself from harm, to make good decisions that are going to make you happy instead of making decisions that are going to make you sad or bring about confusion and drama in your life. Why do you put yourself in situations that are not going to be beneficial for your highest potential? I really want any man that is in a situation where he's feeling like, oh, they're all the same, to really look back at why he feels that way. Ask yourself questions that inquiring minds want to know. Ask yourself the questions that are thought-provoking and that really are going to get to the bottom of your dysfunction. Because we're all dysfunctional in some way. But it's our own jobs to fix it. It's our very own responsibility. It's our own responsibility to fix our dysfunction within ourselves, to unlearn bad habits and to redirect them into positive, healthy habits that then we can pass down to the next generation. But as I see it now, all we're passing down to the next generation is a whole bunch of dysfunctional trauma that everybody incurred and nobody's dealing with. I encourage everybody to start dealing with your trauma. Start sitting with your pain. Start hugging your fears. Start being more mindful and meditating on your emotional health and your emotional well-being. So that's it. That's all I got. Until next time, folks, take care.